In this presentation, we're going to take a look at a problem from the perspective of an accounting major, someone who is going to school and has chosen accounting as their primary field. Although we're talking here to people that have chosen accounting and are in school for accounting, the same kind of thing applies to people that are working within the accounting field, and more broadly, basically any type of career choice or career path will apply, or at least some of these items will apply to it. That problem being the second guessing of the major that we have chosen and dealing with some type of criticism with regards to the major, debate about the major that has been chosen, either from other students or from instructors or from other individuals that we are involved with. Now, we're assuming at this point in time, we're thinking about someone who has basically chosen which path they want to go on. Note, when we're going through the decision-making process, as we go through, typically if someone is going through, say, high school or undergraduate, then we're talking to a whole bunch of people trying to decide what's an appropriate major, what's going to be a good major we want to think about going into. And then, of course, at some point in time, the decision's going to be made, and we have to basically go into that process and continue with the decision-making process and move forward with whatever decision we have been chosen on. Typically, here we're thinking about people that have chosen accounting as the major and now are thinking about moving forward within accounting. Note that as you choose a major, as you narrow things down, as you have to do, it can be concerning because we often think about the things that we have given up. And that's, of course, just the way the mind is wired. We're mentally set to be more concerned about the things that we've lost than the things that we're going to gain with regards to the choices that we make. As we go into the choice, usually we find that the choice that we have made, and the more we think about the choice we made, then there's basically infinite kind of possibilities we have within that choice that we've made. We still have a ton of choices to make. Most people don't narrow down enough and have too many choices, and they end up basically looking like this. I don't know what to do, and we're at a basic standstill. So at some point in time, we have to, of course, say, I'm going to make the decision going forward at this point in time, and going to move forward with that decision and spend less time basically deciding what we want to do. And if we've actually chosen the major, that's probably where we want to be at that point in time. We're probably at that point in time where we want to stop going back and say, well, what if should I change my major or something like that, and go towards the idea of how can I take in the information and apply it to the major that we have chosen. Now, note, if you're in a college setting and or in a work setting, you're going to be dealing with a lot of other people, of course, that have chosen other types of majors. And when you're interacting with them in a college setting, if they're other students, you're going to be interacting with people that are going to be trying to decide what they want to do, and they're going to be rationalizing, of course, the choices that they have made. You're also going to be dealing with instructors when you take undergraduate type of courses that are trying to make their topics very interesting, and of course have dedicated a lot of time to their type of topics, whatever those topics are in. And considering you're going to be taking a lot of different types of topics, you may be in a situation where kind of questioning what you're doing, because every topic should be somewhat interesting considering you're dealing with an instructor that should be somewhat passionate, hopefully, about the topic that they're in. And so you'll probably be interested in different types of topics as well. And the same kind of thing happens when you go into, of course, the working setting. If you're working into a working setting, you're going to have the same kind of things that are going to be involved, but oftentimes people will be a little bit more set in what they're doing and not so concerned with the choice that they're making, but how they're going to apply what they know, what they do into the work setting that you're in. So as we go forward, as you're in the work environment, of course, same kind of questions come up, but at that point in time, people are hopefully a little bit more settled in, and they can take the skills that they know and apply them to the work setting, as opposed to when you're in a college setting where you might be in a situation where people are basically trying to convince themselves that their choice is the proper choice. In essence, then, my basic advice is at some point in time you choose the major. If you've chosen the accounting major, then you want to basically make the discussions with other people and take the information in with a grain of salt and think about how can you not go into a discussion about flipping the major or saying I'm going to change my major or change what I want to do with it, but take the information and put it into and integrate it with the choices that have been made. And just come from the perspective, I would argue that any type of major can be a good choice if you go into that major with interest and you go into wanting to learn that major. Also note that at some point in time, as you learn more in that major, it's just mainly a focal point. You'll start from a viewpoint of the major that you're into, and then you'll be interacting with other people in other areas and industries as well. Obviously, from an accounting standpoint, you'll be dealing with people that are in business, possibly people in science and computer science, possibly people in arts, depending on how what type of industry and what you're interested in. So what you want to do is take this information and not, go back to step one about the choice you're going to want to make, but try to integrate that into the decision that you have made and decide what is going to be useful information as you move forward with it. We're going to break out or group these arguments by major. Now, it doesn't mean that the people that are in these majors are going to ask these arguments or make these arguments, and they're not going to be, rude and making the arguments necessarily. But just note that obviously when you choose a particular major, you're weighing the pros and cons, and something within that major was attractive to you, and typically those can be thought of as the pros and cons with regards to other types of majors as well. So first, we're going to think about the business, economics, and practical skills type areas. Notice other areas of business are the ones we want to be most concerned with, of the decision-making processes with them to some degree, because they might be areas that we are attracted to in some way, might be areas that we can integrate into what we have chosen in some way, and they're also going to be areas that whether we choose to specialize in them in some way, they're going to be people that we work with within the business setting. So we want to be concerned with other business kind of topics or ideas with other specializations within the business or economics majors, and other practical skills, things like computer-related skills, because of course that's going to be an area that you would think would be growing as well as we go forward, and something that anyone dealing in business and or accounting would be involved with. So a common argument here is that accounting is not where the money is at. So if you're taking a major, you're thinking, well, you would choose accounting possibly because it's a practical type of skill. And these other individuals might say, well, no, if you chose business as some kind of management skill, you want to be on the high management level, that's where you're going to get paid more. Or you want to be in some very demand technical type of skill, and that's where the most demanded is, and you're going to get paid more for that. Now, I'm not saying this is wrong. Again, I'm not saying these are wrong arguments. I'm just saying that that's kind of the justification or the pros that you would be considering if you're considering a management type of job, possibly high-level management or some technical skill that's highly in demand. Those are going to be the common pros that you're going to want there. If you're thinking about the accounting and you think those are good pros, again, you probably want to think about, well, how can I take my accounting skills and possibly integrate these other types of things in it, possibly manage something within the accounting field, or possibly if I'm do something computer related within accounting. So one, you could think about how you can integrate these types of things within accounting. And the other side of these things, of course, is that there's downsides to these things as well. So if we were to put this in perspective, we would also note that there's going to be downsides to these other types of activities. And one of the pros of accounting is that if you're a generalist in accounting, then typically you're going to have a job somewhere. You could move to different places. You'll typically, everybody needs accounting of some degree. So there's specialized areas of accounting that you could specialize in that could have higher income. And there's other areas, if you're more of a generalist, then the pros of the generalist is that, accounting is going to be necessary in different types of areas. If we go into more specialized areas, if we become basically a specialist in management or something like that, there's specific type of things that we got to deal with from just a management type of level. Oftentimes people end up specializing a lot in things like management or technical skills. And the more you specialize, the more you run the risk of having to be in a certain location, work in a certain location, less likelihood you can move from location to location because you got to go where the needs are for that particular thing. So just some of the pros and cons between those types of things. One of the major pros, if you're thinking about accounting with relations to these types of arguments, is that, well, yeah, but accounting is basically needed everywhere. I can basically go wherever I want and do accounting. That's one of the major benefits over some of these other areas. And the other areas may be hot right now, but they go up and down. Things will increase and decrease as things change, and technology is moving very fast. So whatever type of technical skill we learn, it could be something that's good today and not as good tomorrow. And also, it's something that we can integrate, hopefully, as we learn these types of things into accounting. Because as things move forward, things are going to be integrated more. So the accounting might be something we can integrate with these types of areas. Another argument: accounting will be completely automated someday. And this is a common argument you might hear, is that, and this is something you'll hear a lot of times within the business industry, and the idea that, well, the accounting's going to be automated. You're working in something that's going to be basically outsourced at some point in time. Now, note that this argument is something that you could apply to almost anything, because at this point in time, there will be some type of automation, some type of change with relation to automation to every type of industry that there is. So it's not really, accounting is not the only kind of thing that's going to change with that. But at the same time, there's always something as well that has decision-making human processes in it, as well as accounting in it does too, that's going to be more difficult to automate. So what we need to decide on is what types of things are automatable, what types of things are not, and you need to basically consider how the accounting field will change. If you're working in accounting, how will it change with regards to automation? And I would argue it's unlikely that the whole accounting field will be automated and moved out. There's always going to be some components of accounting that's going to have need and have a necessity for human decision-making process analyses type processes. Accounting is being used more and more as we get more data. The key component isn't the gathering of the data. The key component is going to be the analysis of the data and choosing what data needs to be gathered. And that's going to be some of the analysis type of components to accounting. So it will shift, but I would say that it's not something that's going to necessarily, it can't go away entirely. It's just going to be where the focus is going to be on it. And again, that applies to any other type of business field as well. The other type of question, another question we might have, economics is not an integral part of the business model, but just a minor task that needs to be done. So similar to taking out the trash. And you'll hear there's actually in people that are in upper management type of situations might sometimes have this kind of perspective, because if you're dealing, and you'll see this on the job as well as people that are looking into majors. Now, of course, this is kind of an argument that might be against anyone that does like a technical type of skill. In other words, people that are real entrepreneurially minded often think that the major business model or the idea type of plan is the major driving force, and everything else is kind of minor details involved in it. And that could include any kind of technical skill. So anything that's related to computers, anything that's related to accounting on this viewpoint is going to be something that's just a kind of a minor detail, and the real driving person here, or the real driving force, the necessary factor, is going to be the business model. So this would be the economics major or the business major that's really like systems or building the model or the vision of the system. And they're oftentimes, of course, and this is entrepreneurs are going to be more focused here. So it's really important for us to kind of understand this kind of thought process and be able to think through it on how we can apply it to basically our accounting thought process. How can we integrate some of these skills that are involved? And also, how do we work and deal with people that are like this as well? Because note that if you're dealing with public accounting and you're dealing with smaller companies, you're going to be dealing with a lot of entrepreneurs that basically could have more of a mindset of, this is what I do. I have the business model. Everything else I basically contract out is just basically minor details, and the business model is the major important thing. And if you work in obviously any type of industry, that you could encounter that as well, that kind of thought process. Now, of course, if you put this into perspective, obviously the major overarching vision, whoever has the major overarching vision, is really important. If they're directing the allocation of the resources, that's going to be important. But obviously, when you get into the business world, hopefully people are more evenly minded, understanding that all components are going to be necessary. So, I mean, if you have the overarching business plan and you don't have the money to pay for the technical skills, whether it be the computer, whether it be accounting, or the janitorial skills, you're not going to do as well as you could. So those things are going to be key components. And the more that you could put that into place as being a key component, obviously that's the better way to go. So you have to put that kind of in perspective, and you also have to basically be able to work with people, and that's important to be able to work with people that have that kind of perspective, possibly because the vision people that are especially with startup companies quite possibly have the idea that the idea is the most important thing, the revenue generation component of that idea is the most important thing, and everything else that's not directly related to revenue generation is not as important. Now, obviously, as the business grows, then those other things become more important. And then, of course, if you are more entrepreneurial type of minded, then the question is, well, how can you integrate that kind of mindset to making your own business that might be around something like accounting, integrating that into the business model you're putting together. And another kind of argument that you'll often hear if you're an accounting major, accounting is not the fun part of the business. Why would you be focusing in on accounting if you're going to go into business and you're going to enjoy your time? You want to be in marketing or advertising or something like that. And that's probably, and again, that's not totally a bad argument. I can kind of understand that as well. Marketing and advertising can be a fun area of the business, but obviously if you're on the accounting side of things, the pros, to put that in perspective, the pros of the accounting side of things is it's usually a pretty stable place to be, right? So one of the big pros on the accounting, everybody needs the accounting side. The marketing side of things, the marketing budget could skyrocket and could go down to nothing. The swings that you experience within the marketing side can be kind of extreme and stressful. So when you're on the accounting side of things, then you're probably better off there. So again, there's pros and cons with that type of argument as well. The next type of question you might hear is from, say, the arts and humanities type of majors. So arts and humanities type majors might give a question such as this, although it could come from any kind of place. The arts and humanities type question for why would you choose accounting? Life activities should be focused on what you love doing, and who could love doing accounting, right? That would be the kind of questions from people. And you can imagine, of course, obviously, if you've chosen to do something like art, if you're thinking about music, or if you're thinking about some type of thing that you just like doing and you think you could do well at it, then of course you're thinking through your rationalization process would be that I'm going to focus in on what I like doing. That's going to be the most important thing. Obviously, from an accounting major standpoint, we would put that into perspective and say that there's got to be some kind of balance in terms of what I like doing, number one, and what I can do well at. Also, we could think of things that there are enjoyment within accounting as well. There's many things that could be kind of like puzzle related. People that like doing puzzles and things like that get enjoyment from actually doing the puzzles and whatnot. And so there are many points of accounting that are similar to that. You kind of have a similar skill, similar to things like other types of things where you create technical skills result in creating things, although they might not be things that are as artistic in terms of what other people think of them, and like art or music or books or something like that are things that you are creating. So if you put time into it and you make something, that could be something that could be interesting as well. You get that intrinsic kind of skill. So note where this argument is coming from. It's basically saying that you should be looking for something that's an intrinsic type of skill because you're going to get more enjoyment out of doing that. And, there are things within accounting that has intrinsic type of skills that you can enjoy doing. It's just that other people don't enjoy seeing them as much. If you make something that's good in terms of art, then someone else might enjoy, just seeing it for the skill that's been put into it. If you make a good computer program, or if you work in the accounting, you put something together, put in a business plan together, then other people use it and appreciate it in different ways. Is all. They appreciate it in the format of its application, why you would use it. And then another kind of common argument is, money doesn't really matter in the big picture of things. Why would you focus so much time on counting money when it doesn't really matter? And again, obviously, if we put this into perspective, you could say, what's the most important thing? What really matters in terms of the most important thing? But obviously, one of the major things you learn in accounting is you're going to break out the business component, the non-business component. If you specialize and focus your time, when you're focusing your time on those two different things, by specializing and separating the time, you do typically better at both of them. So the fact is that money is one component of life, and you got to spend sometimes in it. And when you're focusing in on accounting, although you're counting money, it's not really the money that possibly is the most important thing, or that may be providing enjoyment. It's basically the accounting of it. Making something, doing something, making something practical, being part of a team of something, just as it would be if you're writing a book or if you're doing music. It would be just as silly to say that music is the most important thing or the book is the most important thing. No, that's the thing you're doing. That's the thing you're making. The important thing is that you're enjoying making it. And the same thing can be applied with accounting. So it really comes down to, do you enjoy doing it or not? And again, certain parts of accounting you can enjoy doing if you enjoy that component of what you're putting together. Another type of argument, life should be spent doing stuff and interacting with people. Why would you spend so much time on numbers or considering ledgers and computers and things like that? Because you should be out either doing activity, some type of other activity, or you should be, interacting with most of your time rather than, working things out. And again, put that into perspective in some kind of cases. Again, you get enjoyment from interacting. Some people get more enjoyment from doing a lot more interacting with other people and doing other types of things, and sometimes you get enjoyment from doing other things such as figuring things out. So when you're working, so if you put this into perspective, doing things like working with numbers and putting together things, possibly programming or possibly doing some other technical skill does give some satisfaction. What is that satisfaction that you're going to get? From the same satisfaction you get from doing a crossword puzzle. You're working through something, you're exercising, your brain on something. So, there's value in that. So again, you might want to integrate some of this into the accounting, put it into, the whole work-life balance thing, as well as, how could you do some more accounting that might be more integrated with other people in terms of working on larger projects, or what type of accounting you want to do. Do you want to have, work on projects within accounting that involve larger teams? So these are, again, questions that you could integrate into your plan. If you think that is something that obviously is important, then you could apply this into your accounting as well to specialize in different areas. I'm going to group these into sciences. So, one of the major items with science might be an argument such as life is understanding the physical world. That's what you're going to test the physical world. You have to understand the physical world. And then, of course, the money is just a tool that should be used towards that end, right? The money should be a tool to basically understand more stuff, might be the one kind of scientific type of question. It's similar to the business type of argument, where the business argument was the guy, the entrepreneurial guy, saying that the most important thing is the idea, the entrepreneurial idea, and the accounting is just a means to an end to that goal, and that's the most important thing. Well, science might say, well, science understanding is the most important thing. Money's just an end, means to an end towards that. And again, if you put that into perspective, at some point in time, you got to say, well, the money is an important part of the process to understanding something, and you can use money in terms of different types of calculations mathematically and other types of ways that actually have led to understanding, different types of things as well. So again, you just kind of have to put that into perspective. And if that is something that is interesting to you, again, you could apply that, possibly doing accounting for something that might be related towards an end goal of science or something like that. If you do believe that the science would be a good thing to work towards, and maybe an accounting's interesting, you can do accounting related in a science type field. So the bottom line is that as we learn accounting, we should be integrating these other areas as we learn it. That's going to be one of the goals that we could take away as we interact with these other type of areas. How can we apply some of their skills as we learn more of accounting? Then we're going to be working in more of accounting. We're going to be integrating with these different types of areas. So whatever career we choose can be thought of as a kind of a focal point normally. We're going to start there, and then we're going to use that to basically build off, and we can learn different areas from that basic focal point, rather than trying to switch completely from one area and say, now I'm going to move to this other area completely and forget everything I learned. No, we're going to associate what we've learned to the new area, and that's going to help us to learn it a lot better and possibly have different perspectives than we would have if we tried to just, wash our mind clean and start off in a new area, switching our topic completely. Whatever we know best will eventually lead into other topics as we expand out our knowledge. Just note that, as we keep on learning stuff, we should be thinking about how we can integrate it, not how we're going to basically switch completely normally at some point in time once we've chosen a major. As students, we can expand our knowledge by learning components of other disciplines that most directly apply to ours. So as we make our discussions and talk to other people about what they're doing, we probably want to be considering how can I integrate that and add to, not considering on what have I lost and given up by taking this direction and not another. No, how can we add the information we had to the direction I'm going? So we want to learn things like accounting software, database programs, tax software, managerial concepts, group dynamics, economics. These are all things that we can integrate into basically accounting in some type of way, or whatever field we have chosen in. Now, we obviously have courses that can help us to learn some of these skills and integrate some of these skills in a way we don't see typically in a lot of accounting type of classes. For example, if you're a student and you're going through the accounting field and you want to learn more about the computer programs, you probably want to start off with a software such as QuickBooks, because QuickBooks is going to tell you, that's going to help you, that's going to use a database program and basically apply out some of the skills you're learning in terms of the technical skills to the database program you're using. Also, you want to be integrating what you're learning every time with basically computer programs, application programs such as Excel or other type of spreadsheet program, Google Docs. And so we also have accounting courses that go into basically learning the skills, but also applying them out to Excel worksheets, pre-formatted Excel worksheets. You should really be learning how to format the Excel worksheets as you go, how to present the information. When you talk to these other people, note the mindset that they might have, especially some of the business people that you might have, especially entrepreneurially minded type of people, because what you really want to do is think about, well, how can I build my business around my understanding of this information? And part of that is presenting the information. How can I build this information to make things go as smoothly as possible? So you want to think about, how can I format my information so that I can give this information to different people who might have different mindsets in terms of how much information they want. How can I manipulate this information in different ways? How can I print it and send it in different ways? How can I format it in those formats? We also have tax classes or tax information. Some of that information being done with the use of tax software. So if you're concerned, if you're thinking about going into taxation, huge thing with regards to taxation and software with relation to it as well, because of course tax law is something that changes all the time. So if you have an understanding of tax law and the integration of tax law and some understanding of the application software and or how to make application software with relation to it, that could be a specialized field as well. And then of course managerial accounting topics. We have managerial accounting is going to be an area where a lot of times when you think about the managerial components of things, people focus in on the decision-making processes with people and teams and group dynamics. And obviously those are going to be really important for managing anything as well. But you're also going to want to know, how can I make rational decision-making processes in different types of decisions, especially those that are going to be broader decisions that take more resources. And the component of that will be managerial accounting. So you'll find a link below to this place, or you can go to accountinginstruction.info or accountinginstruction.thinkific.com.